Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss something called types or data types. So generally what we have seen till now, if you have gone through the previous videos, that there we read CSV files, right, in a previous example, and in that we mentioned some string type, integer type while reading the file. That is, we defined the schema and then we read the file, right? So other than that, there can be, apart from the integer type and string type, there can be complex types also, right? So generally there are three types which are used. So till now whatever we have seen is a struct type. We would have seen that struct type. So struct type is for defining the structure, and struct type, inside that there can be a single integer type or something defined like that. So what will happen if it is nested struct type? That is a struct type within a struct type. I will show that here. See, this is our data. This is the first struct type. So this outer is the first struct type. Inside that, all these, right, these are nested struct type. So these details, right? So when you do things like that, you have to kind of unnest it, right, and flatten it or bring the data out. So for that, what we need to do, we have to define a schema for that with the struct field and struct type, like we were doing in the previous examples. And for that we have to define this name. See, that first type, if you see, this one contains three fields, right? Like say for example, Maria Annie Jones. Okay, so Maria is this field, then Jones, then Annie, then Jones. Okay, and outside that there will be three fields which are ID, gender and salary. So once we run this, right, because now for all the stuff which does not involve Hive and HDFS, I will be doing it through the PyCharm itself, because that's much more comfortable and easier. So what I will do, I will just execute it. Is executing. Now once it executes, what is our motto? Our motto, what we are doing in the code is, first we will see the data, we will print the data. See, here we have passed the data and we have passed the schema to create the data frame. Post that, printing the schema and then showing the data. Then we are going, and in the name, right, see, this name nested contain three fields, right? So we are doing a name dot star. So all the fields of that would be printed along with the ID, gender and salary field. And then we are flattening it with a select, same way, and printing the same. So let's see, we have run it. See, our data was like this. Name contained these three, and these were in the outer, right, ID, gender and salary. And then we have printed first initially. See, this is the type. So wherever you see kind of a bracket, right, that bracket generally is like an array type. So it defines three elements. Although in this case, see, how will you understand what is the type is? You go here and you see this is a struct type. So that array type also you will have a bracket, so you need to be a little cautious on that. But while defining it, it will be defined like this only. Now next to that, we have seen the data. The data is like this. Say Maria and Annie Jones and 3912 and a female and 5500. Now what we do is we flatten it. Once we flattened it, right, using our code, this one, and we printed the schema, it prints a flattened schema. Now that name thing is not there, you can see the fields have been flattened, and we print the value and it gets flattened. So this is a struct type nested and unnesting it or flattening it. Next we will see the array type. What is an array type and how we can do a nested array type stuff, what all we can do. So before that we have to know one thing. What is a row? In many codes, many places you will see there they have given something like a row. A row is nothing but it is based on row object or schema RTD. So what happens here is the data type you don't define. See, generally what we were doing in the previous examples, we were defining a data type that it is of int type or string type or whatever. Here we are not defining the type, we are defining like this. This is an array, this is the array, that is the field name and the field value, again the field name and the field value, and each row is like a row. So each row signifies a row, but this is a row object definition. So that is without a schema. So I just wanted to show you guys that this is also a possibility, although this used to be like few places they will mention that. So now what we will do is, first activity we will do is, we'll find out in this array type. Array is, probably you are aware, array is nothing but a group of objects like 1 2 3 4 5. So this is contained in one field, all of these. See, generally till now what we have seen is this is one field. Suppose like in the previous, right, we are seeing this kind of stuff, right? So this is this kind of stuff. In one array A there are this many, field B and there's one. So first is we are finding in the array type one value, that is which contains 3. So it should give me this row, right? Next to that is, again I will go and I will get, I can go in the array and I can get the element. So I am getting the 0th and the 5th element because it starts from 0, right? So this is the 5th. So the 5th element, and I am just aliasing it, I am just naming it like element 5. Likewise other things are there, like if there is a array type and inside that this is array type, right, which is with a square bracket, and inside that these row type is actually a struct type. So inside array type there is a struct type, and we will print that type and we'll see how to unnest it, how to print that details. So I will just run it and then I will go through the code. It executed. Now we'll go to the code and see. See, I was telling initially this is the one, this part, it is printing this, okay, Tori, Erin, and these are the data, okay. Next I am trying to find the row, that is I am trying to find in an array, okay. So that is why I am using the array contains. Although the array contains is sometimes a little slower, we'll see what we can do. See, this is the array contains, this returns, that is the one which contains the 3. This one does not contain, so it doesn't return that. So this is searching in an array type. Yeah. So the other thing is, if we want to get the element, the 0th element, we'll see what it is. See, here I want to print the first element only in the row, so I am doing here get item. If I do get item, I will get the 0th element, and I am just naming it as element 0. Likewise, what I can do, I can print this way also. This is another way of getting the data. fifth element, that is the last one. See, fifth and 666, this one, and I'm printing here. And lastly, printing the field B, that is this column. Okay. So next to that, we have a struct type in array type, right? So for that, what happens? Let's see. See, this is the one. There is an array type. Array type will have always show like this. Inside that, there is this struct, right? This one. This is this one, which we have named this whole thing actually. So for that also, we are printing the values. The values will be printed like this. So next to that, we are printing the values of each. Like in the array A, I'm going and printing the field 1, this one, this value, and field 2, this one. So I'm just kind of unnesting it. You will see when you see the data. See, what I'm doing is field 1 and field 2 I'm printing here, field 1 here and field 2 here. So it's kind of a little tricky. I'm printing the schema and all. Next to that, if there is a nested struct type within a nested array type, then what we will do? So in that case, it is something like this, right? Array A, array with the array within an array, and inside that a struct. See here are two brackets, right? So array within an array, inside that there is a struct. So you try from your this knowledge and also the knowledge of the next one, you try how to print this. I have just printed the schema. You try to print the data, but one thing, you try all these things in Spark 2.4 and above. Don't try it before that, it will be a little complex. Try to see if you can print it. Of course I will mention the solution of it in the answer part, but you try at your end. So this does with our array type normal. So now there is something called two functions are there, which generally many places they ask, and you have to also answer those details. One is explode and one is flatten. So these are also an operation on array type. So for that, I will just run it and then I will go through. For this thing, I have created a data where you can see this is one data and this is a array within an array, right? These each are arrays and that is another array within an array, kind of. So for that, we will see how the data looks. So the data looks like initially like this, which we see here, of course. Then we do something called an explode. See, we apply an explode on the subjects field. Okay, let's see what happens after that. When we exploded and we kept the name of the field as this exploded subject, see, it exploded into two rows, right? This was in 1 plus, this became two rows. So explode does that, it breaks based on the this thing, like, see, this went to the next one and this also went to the another, so two rows it created. So explode, you can give example if somebody wants to know, or somebody wants to know that whether you are aware about it. Then another function that comes is flatten. Now what is flatten? Flatten, what you can do is, see, our rows were in a two structure, right? Like this and this two rows. For James example, James was having Java, Scala and C++. James was having Spark and Java. Now I want to bring it together. How can I bring it? So for that I use a flatten, and once I bring flatten, this becomes the output. Okay. Next to that, we will do something called flatten with an we will flatten it more actually. See, all of these still are within an array, right? So I want to bring like James Java, James Scala, James C++, James Spark, James Java, like that, each row. So for that, actually what I will do is I will do something called zip. So generally there is a function called zip, but I am using array zip, and I am exploding based on that. So you can see the output as I was explaining. So I will tell what it does. See, it will create a temp field, a column, and that column it will explode. So once it explodes, right, you have seen the above example of explode. So it will explode this array into rows. So it's nothing but it's taking advantage of the temp, and that's all. So another thing is that the above one which we are doing, right, if you don't know how many columns are there or how many elements are there in the array, that point of time you can do that. If you don't know how many elements are there in your array, if you know already, right, like for example I know that 5 are there, right, one being blank in this one being blank in the last one, I mean. So in that scenario I've mentioned the length as 5, and I have used the reduce function in which I have printed the name and the subjects the same way, but this is a little performant than the above one. So performance wise this is better. Okay, it again prints it. Okay, so this is a nested array and how to explode it, how to flatten it. Next to that is there is something called MapType. So we have seen, right, there were StructType, ArrayType and MapType. So in MapType what we can see is map is nothing but a key value pair. So this is a bracket, this signifies it's a map type, and we are creating a data, for example like this, and we'll see how it shown in the database. Let's see how it goes. So initially, see, as a key value, right, it is printing A1, B1 like that, C3, A4 like that. Now if I want to bring it into a flattened version, right, see, and this is the schema. Everywhere we are printing the schema just so that you can understand the nesting wherever it is applicable. So if I want to flatten everything, right, I can flatten it. I've flattened it, and flattening it brings it in this format. But this is not too much of an operationally what to say helpful, right? This is again within an array, how we can operate it. So in that case we will bring it into rows and columns so that we can operate. This one we can operate, right? This is nothing but the above one only. If you see this ABC, this is ABC only, A, B, C, A and C, right? Here also same thing, ABC. It's just forming within so that you can work better. So this is being done by this code, which does an explode of the A, and it brings an ID. It pivots it based on, because it has to pivot, right? It has to bring ABC at the above, and it will then group by based on the ID, which is initially we are defining a column, monotonically increasing ID, and based on that we are printing this. So these are few operations which I have just shown. You can just try at your end and you can see how it so that you can get a feel of the complex types. After that we'll see some more details, some more conceptual details of Spark apart from this these details, because there are many other things which are being used in a day-to-day use. So we'll see that with examples. Thanks, and probably your complex types concern will be gone to some extent, or I would say this would be a good starter, because complex types there can be very much different types, right? Different issues can come to you, but this is just a starter which I try to create. I just upload these files to the GitHub repository, and you can run through, change the file, add something, modify, and play around, and then see. Okay, thanks for joining. Any questions if you have, just let me know. I will answer them of complex types. Thank you. Bye.